Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal. Back again with a live stream. We'll be doing this at this particular time every single day. But first, let's get straight into the news on CALAFIORI. There's been a lot of news on him now. They got eliminated a couple of days ago, but you're already hearing a lot of news on CALAFIORI. We expected it, and it's moving very fast. So let's start. We've already done a video talking about how the terms are being agreed and all that. But let's go to what Fabrizio Romano has had to say. Let me know if where you're watching from and all that. Let's get straight into it. So according to Fabrizio Romano, Arsenal have presented long-term proposal to Riccardo Calafiori after interest revealed last week. Understand players open to joining Arsenal if they can agree terms with Bologna. Chelsea are still there. Arsenal and Chelsea, the only two clubs in talks right now. So we have presented our long-term proposal to Riccardo Calafiori. That has happened very quickly. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that one. So it is true. For the people who always worry about some things not being true, it is definitely true. That is according to Fabrizio Romano, and this has been reported by Court Offside. Sources close to the deal have informed Court Offside that Arsenal are now preparing a bid in the region of 50 to 55 million euros for Riccardo Calafiori, who is keen on the move as talks reach an advanced stage on long-term contract until 2029. So that will be a 5-year contract. So first, let's start with Arsenal and Chelsea, and all those teams are wanting him. So Arsenal and Chelsea, Fabrizio has said Arsenal and Chelsea, the only two teams are currently going in for Calafiori. Now, we already know how much of a massive talent he is. Chelsea are trying to sell Chilwell, and they could easily get rid of another left-sided defender, someone like a Badiashile or someone. They're already selling Chalobah and players like that, and they could. I don't know about everything going on at Chelsea, but I know those particular details. So they will be looking for players like Calafiori, players that are available, and there's no team that loves hijacking players from Arsenal like Chelsea. Now, I know since the Mudryk thing happened, a lot of Arsenal fans are always like, rush, so that because Chelsea don't get into the deal. For me, it happened once or maybe twice. I'm not really worried about Chelsea that much to the point I'm like, nah, we need to hurry our deals because Chelsea is there. If we offer a player 40 million and Chelsea come and offer them 100 million, let them have him. We're not going to pay overboard in terms of that. And recently, because people usually compare us to Chelsea, like Chelsea have signed players, why not us? How many of those players that Chelsea signed the last 4 years have worked as much as the Arsenal players the last 4 years? It hasn't. Most of theirs has not worked because they just jump to deals and all that. So right now, as of now, I believe in Arsenal more than Chelsea in terms of the project. Chelsea have a new manager. We still don't know what to expect from them. That is the truth. Yes, they have young players. They could grow into the team. The likes of Caicedo, the likes of Mudryk, they can grow into the team and they can become a great team the next couple of years. That is for sure. So maybe in terms of that, Riccardo Calafiori could be interested. But remember, Riccardo Calafiori is leaving a Champions League team. Bologna are a Champions League team now. So I don't see why he would leave a Champions League team and go to a team that is currently not even in the Europa League. And I want to say no disrespect to Chelsea, but who cares about Chelsea? That is the truth. Usually players back in the day, 2-3 years ago, players would reject going to Arsenal. Why? Because we were not in the Champions League. Now we're in the Champions League and Chelsea are not. It's very different from competing with Real Madrid and Man City. If Real Madrid and Man City wanted Calafiori, I'd be like, okay, I can see why I'd want to go to Real Madrid. You're basically guaranteed a Champions League medal then stuff. And Man City, you're going to work with Guardiola, you're going to work with players like De Bruyne and Haaland. Who doesn't want that? So those particular teams, I'd be like, okay, even Liverpool, because in the Champions League in the last 5-6 years, they've been a really top team. So those are the teams that I'm usually like, okay, you never know what is going to happen. But for Chelsea, unless they pay, the only way they can get us out of a deal is if they pay way more than us. And as I said, if a player is worth 40 million and Chelsea come and offer 90 million, let them have him. If our wage structure says you're going to pay 130,000 a week and Chelsea come and pay 500,000 a week, let them have him. Now, that won't be the case with Calafiori. I think Calafiori is being paid something like 16,000 per week. That is very little. Even if we quadruple that, you times 4, that is still less than 100,000 a week. So in terms of the fee, in terms of the wages and all that, Calafiori is a very, very cheap player. So that will really benefit us if we can get it over the line. Now, Do we need a defender? Do we need a left back? Do you guys think we need a defender? Do you think we needed a defender, or are you happy the 7 defenders that we had? For me, I am happy the 7 defenders that we have. I know Zinchenko is not the best defender, and I know Tomiyasu can get injured anytime, but Timber is back. Timber is basically like a new signing. Last season, we were able to keep all those clean sheets. It could have been like 30 clean sheets. Let's be honest. I think we kept 18. And if you look at the games that we conceded, Tottenham, mistake. You look at Wolves, mistake, 90th minute to concede. Nottingham, twice they scored in the 90th minute against us. 2 mistakes pretty much. One counter-attack and the other one a mistake. So all those games could have been clean sheets, and a lot more other games that could have been clean sheets. Now, maybe I'd say thinking, I already have Saliba, I already have Gabriel, I already have Ben White and all these guys. If I throw in Calafiori to the list, we are going to keep like 25 clean sheets and you're not going to concede a goal. Now, I've gone through this graphic a few times, but I've not done it on a live stream yet. Calafiori will bring a lot of different abilities to Arsenal. This Euros for Italy, he picked up an assist against Croatia. He created 4 chances. He had a passing accuracy of 92%, 7 aerial duels won, 77% aerial duel success, and 6 interceptions. And last season for Bologna in general, the whole season, look at the assists, 5 assists, and most of these are from playing as a centre back. Chances created, 14 of them. Passing accuracy, really good. Aerial duels, a lot of them won. Interceptions, a lot. Aerial duel success, 71%. That is good. That is a defender who can defend and also attack. I don't want Zinchenko to leave Arsenal. Most of you want Zinchenko to leave Arsenal. I understand why. I also don't really want Zinchenko to play as a left back. Neither. I want him to be used more in midfield. If he has to play as a left back, obviously don't play him against Man City or Liverpool or Aston Villa. We know he's going to struggle. But for me, I was like, just keep the 7 defenders and focus on getting a striker, focus on getting a winger, and focus on getting a midfielder. The moment he sells Zinchenko and then he sells Kivio, you need to buy 2 defenders, and that takes away from the budget, that takes away from the time and all that. So most of you want Osimhen, most of you want Gyökeres, most of you want Nico Williams. The only way you can focus on that is if we have other positions sorted out. And for me, defense, I don't think we needed to change it a lot. Zinchenko is not the best defender, but I also don't agree he's like a Senderos or a Giroud or Andre Santos. He's not as bad as that. So we can just keep him in the team and focus on other positions. But if you add someone like a Calafiori, Zinchenko is not a starter. Even if he stays, I don't think he's a starter. So if Calafiori joins, you have 8 defenders pretty much. We have Ben White, Tomiyasu, Saliba, Timber, Gabriel, Kivio, Zinchenko, and Calafiori. That is 2 players in each position. You can have Ben White and Tomiyasu at right back. You can have Timber and Saliba helping each other out, Gabriel and Kivio helping each other out, and Zinchenko and Calafiori helping each other out. Now, the thing that is probably going to happen, I feel like Kivio or Zinchenko, one of them is definitely going to leave. Probably Kivio, because I don't think many teams have said they want Zinchenko as of now. I'm not even sure that FC would want to sell Zinchenko. He signed Zinchenko and Jesus from Man City himself. He went to Man City and took them. I don't think he's going to offload them after a year. I think they're going to get a 3rd year at Arsenal. So against I don't think it's going to get rid of those players. So even if it does, Kivio leaves, we'll remain with 7 defenders. Timber can play a lot of positions. Calafiori can play a lot of positions. Tomiyasu can play a lot of positions. And same with Ben White and all of those guys. So we will definitely strengthen the team. Now, in terms of 50 million, do you guys think we should be paying 50 million for Calafiori? 50 million is a lot of money to spend on a defender, because defense was not our biggest problem, but maybe Atta wants to make it even completely, unbreakable in terms of the defense. Like, we just don't consider goal at all. And Calafiori is not only going to add in terms of defensive abilities, he's also going to add in terms of attacking abilities, as we've seen with the stats. He can create chances, he can assist, he's good in terms of controlling the ball. And I'll be lying to you if I told you I've been following Calafiori for the last 3 years. I'll be lying to you. I think he's played for Roma, he's played for Basel and all that. But the last 2 weeks I've watched him, I can confirm to you that he's the next Maldini. Maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but he's a very, very good player and he'll definitely bring something to you. And that is why he's been linked with a lot of different teams. I think this is the one. Yeah, PSG, Chelsea, Leverkusen. Like, when you're wanted by all of those teams, it's tough. It means that you're a very, very good player. Now, as Fabrizio has said, my only worry in terms of getting Calafiori was Juventus, because it's very easy for him to say, no, I want to remain in Italy, I want to go to a Juventus or an AC Milan. But Fabrizio has confirmed this as well. Juventus are not in talks to sign Riccardo Calafiori, and the deal is currently off. Following Bologna's decision to not sell to their rivals. Calafiori's agent, Alexandro Lucci, is now working on the best solution for the player. So The best solution for the player is either Arsenal and Chelsea, as Fabrizio has told us. Now it's up to him to decide. Now, 50 million, 55 million euros, I think we can pay that for him. But Chelsea can probably pay that for him as well. In terms of wages, it's going to be less than 100,000, and Chelsea have a 150,000 cap, so they don't want to spend too much money in terms of that. But Chelsea would definitely want him. He's young, he's less than 25 years of age. Young player, they would probably need a left back, but Chelsea have a lot of players playing on that side either way. Colwill, Cucurella, and all of those guys. So I think it's a matter of which project he's going to choose and a matter of where he feels like he's going to play. Now, there's a chance that Chelsea and Arsenal, both of them, he might not be a starter. But as of now, personally, don't think Cucurella is a bad player, especially for Spain. Very, very good. If he comes to Arsenal, I think he'll be told that left back position is yours. I think he'll be told, listen, probably Kiwi is going to move on. We are going to use Timber. And 2 weeks ago, it was reported that I don't remember the outlet, that Timber and Tomiyasu are going to be used more on the right side to help Saliba and Ben White. So we are open on the left side if that is the case. So if Calafiori joins, that position pretty much becomes his. He's basically now our left back. And these days, teams play with four centre backs, including Arsenal and Man City. So Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, you have a back four. All of them centre backs. That is how people play. But you now have a Ben White who has really improved in terms of going forward, and you have a Calafiori who is very accountable in terms of going forward as well. So for me, I think it would be a great signing. I didn't want a defender, but I did say if you have to get a defender, make sure it's an opportunity. So Hato, Branthwaite, Calafiori, players like that. There's only like 3 or 4 players, maybe Inacio from Sporting, like maybe 4 defenders I would want. But the others are not really keen on getting a defender. I want us to improve our striker position. I want us to get a backup for Saka. I want us to get a midfielder. Actually, for me, my midfielder is my priority. I want a midfielder to be signed fast, because if Partey gets injured again, you're doomed in midfield. If you don't have a goalkeeper, you can still win the game 5-4. You can still score goals, and then the goalkeeper can still make mistakes, and you can still win the game. If you don't have a striker, you can still score a goal from a set piece, or your winger does something and you still score a goal. But if you don't have a midfield, you're going to lose a lot of chances, because you're going to be opened up very easily, and then you're not going to create chances because you're not going to have that transition between the defender and the forward players. So you're really depending on Partey. If he's not there again next season, you're in trouble, especially for that beginning of the season. So I need someone else to be there to help out Jorginho and Partey and Rice, and then you have a very, very strong midfield. But it seems like Calafiori will be our second signing. Raya was our first signing. He wasn't our player yet. Calafiori seems to be the second signing. So let's go through this again before I come to your comments. Fabrizio has confirmed that Arsenal presented a long-term proposal to Ricardo Calafiori after interest revealed last week. Understand players open to joining Arsenal if they can agree terms with Bologna. Chelsea are still there. Arsenal and Chelsea, the only 2 clubs right now. And then this from Court Offside, 50 to 55 million is what is being quoted. And from this, Juventus are not interested, according to Fabrizio Romano. And there's one that I had. I've lost the graphic, but they do say that Arsenal and Bologna have a very good relationship because we got Tomiyasu from there. So you have a good relationship with them. It's great to have good relationship with teams. I think we have a good relationship with Real Madrid in terms of players. Somehow we kind of have a good relationship with Chelsea, with them giving us players, although they give us some terrible players most of the times. I think we have a good relationship with teams like Ajax, which is great. You need to have good relationships with those teams so that like in terms of business, they can be like, okay, we've worked with Arsenal before, we can do it again. Like going back to West Ham right now, we don't have a good relationship with West Ham. That would be a nightmare. If you went there to try and get Kudus or Boyan right now, it would be a nightmare. We don't have a good relationship with them when it comes to transfers. But with teams like Bologna, it can work out. So let's see how that one develops. But I think he will be happy to join us. So I think he is already said yes to joining Arsenal. Now it's up to Arsenal and Bologna agreeing the fee. 50 million euros. They have to get a lot of money for him because of this. The second paragraph, both clubs have explored conditions of the deal. Expensive as Basel will get almost 50%. Basel will get 50% of what Bologna gets. So if you pay them 50 million, they're going to get 25 million from that. I don't know who did that. Whoever their director is, I need them to come and also just have Edu and Eteta signing players, and then have whoever is Basel's director selling the players and stuff. Because 50%, imagine you sold Nelson right now for like 20 million, and then he goes to, I don't know, whichever team that he goes to, and then after 2 years is incredible and he's being sold for 70 million, and then we get that 5 million from that. That is crazy. But Calafiori moving to Bologna, he only moved there for like 4 million or something, 4 or 5 million. That is very cheap. So they are going to make a profit either way. So let's see how that one goes. Let me come to your comments before going to the next piece of news. We need a striker and midfielder, says Solfi. I agree. Good evening, Arsenal fans, says Yakubu. Charles says Zini is Arsenal's passion pulse. Play him in midfield. He's a menace there. People make jokes of him about him crying. I mean, you saw Ronaldo crying as well. So I think that is overboard. I think the hate for Zinchenko is a bit overboard. I know he's not the best of defenders. If we can get 40 million or something for him, 35 million, 40 million, fine. If that money can be used elsewhere, I'm fine with that. I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm not a player fan. I know there's a time that is going to come that Zinchenko is going to leave. I know there's a time that Odegaard is going to leave. I know Martinelli is going to leave sometime. Yet they're not going to stay at Arsenal forever. I really loved Fabregas and Rosicki and Van Persie. They all left. So but for me, I don't feel like we need to switch up our defense right now. But to add someone, no problem. Oyewusi says Arsenal has been doing actually, let me put these comments in bold. They're a bit dark. There you go. Oyewusi says Arsenal have been doing the scouting for Chelsea. If you notice a trend for a while, any player Arsenal shows interest in, Chelsea will show up. It shows we are the master of the transfer game. Yeah, so that you're definitely right. It shows that we are very good at scouting. Personally, I'm not worried about Chelsea that much. We were a different team those days. Now we've competed for the league twice, and we know we have the closest team to Man City. We know we can beat Man City to get Declan Rice. We can beat teams like Bayern to get players. The only way Chelsea can beat us is not in terms of the project, it's in terms of money, and they do actually have a bit of money problems. Agent Jorginho is working behind the scenes for the love of Arsenal, says Diane, for sure. Nehemiah says watching from Port Harcourt, Nigeria. You guys are doing a good job. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for always watching. Let's see. Good news, says Abiadan. Chabin says, is he going to Chelsea? No, hopefully not. Watching you from Zambia, says Calvin. Good evening, Brutus. Take a couple. Chelsea's just there to mess up our deals and render players useless after signing them. It looks like they are using Arsenal as their free scout for players since last season, says Charles. That's the thing. They do sign, and 80% of the players never work out. You know, Fofana from Leicester never worked out. You know, they sign a player after 1 year and they want to sell them. They're already tired of Mudryk. So I don't know if that will make them change their ways in terms of just jumping on a player and just going to sign random players that have not been linked to. Magambi says we need him a player like Wenger signing. We need him a player like Wenger signing. Arsenal is now the eyes of Chelsea, says Nelson. Ibrahim says Ben was bought for £50 million and he's also a defender. A very, very good defender. These days, there's no problem with having, because if you want to compete with Man City, if you are competing for just the top 4, then fine, you can have like 6 defenders most. But competing with Man City have a bench where they have, you know, Grealish, 100 million on the bench. You know, they can have last season, they have Mahrez on the bench. They can have players like Ake and Gvardiol on the bench and Stones on the bench, players who cost them 50, 60, 70 million. So we have, if you want to compete with Man City, unfortunately, we also have to kind of go that direction to the point of where we look at the bench and like, oh, Havertz cost 65 million, Jesus 45 million, 42 million. Oh, look at Calafiori, he cost us 50 million, is on the bench. Oh, Ben White, 50 million, is also on the bench. Like, you need a team to you can like rotate a lot, and hopefully Atta rotates more next season. I feel like last season he probably didn't believe in the players that were on the bench. Hopefully next season we can work on that, and then we don't have to play Saliba, Saka, Odegaard for 50 games in a row. We can rest them for a few games here and there. Let's see. Wawa says, my brother, I'm behind our players we signed so far. We've not signed anyone apart from Raya, but we're expecting deals to be done in July. For me, I think by the end of July, we'll have 3 signings. Like, it just takes a couple of days to announce them, like Timber, Havertz, and Rice. Actually, Timber and Rice were announced back-to-back days. I think 28th and 29th, or 29th and 30th. I don't remember the actual date. So it doesn't really matter whether remember the transfer window has only been going on for 2 weeks. It's not been going on for 2 months. and there's still 2 months to go of the transfer window. There's still more than 3 weeks to go before we play our first preseason game. So there's still a lot of time to get deals done. So speaking of getting deals done, let's go through a couple of others, then we'll get back to Calafiori. So Lokonga seems like he's going to move on. According to Fabrizio, Albert Sambi Lokonga has accepted Sevilla's next destination. There is total green light from the player now. Arsenal and Sevilla negotiate final details, including buy clause, how to activate it, and potentially make it mandatory. This is what Fabrizio reported a couple of days ago. Arsenal have already approved the exit of Albert Sambi Lokonga. Talks are underway with Sevilla. Value of the buyback clause being negotiated. And then this one from Ramirez. Everything indicates that Sambi Lokonga will join Sevilla on loan with obligation to buy. Arsenal are asking for the clause to be worth 10 million. Now, a lot of people have complained about that 10 million is too little. I kind of agree because he had good time at Crystal Palace and good time at Luton. We should be able to get like at least, I'd say 15 million, or even the money that we paid for him, around 18 million, 20 million for him. Then I'd be happy with that. But I don't know, man. We are definitely not the best team at selling. We are probably one of the worst over the last 20 years. We are not good at selling since like the Thierry Henry days. Like I remember the fees that Thierry Henry and Van Persie left for. You're just like, this is crazy. You could have sold those players for like 50 million. So Lokonga, I think it's a case of they just don't want him anymore. They're just trying to get rid of players. Hopefully, this bunch of players that we've sold the last 2-3 years are the final ones that you're not going to get money for. When the time comes and you're going to sell Martinelli or Trossard or Odegaard or any of those guys, let's hope at that time we'll be getting 70, 80 million for those players. We've never really sold. Our record transfer is 35 million. 35, I think, for Chamberlain. That is too little for a team that has existed since the 1800s. Like our record transfer fee is 35 million. That is crazy. That means we've never ever been good at selling players. Hopefully you can improve on that. Any players that we have right now, after Lokonga leaves and this guy, other guys, every other player that is at Arsenal should never be sold less than 30 million. That includes Smith Rowe and Ketia and all those guys. You should never sell anyone less than 30 million. You should always be above that, because especially if you go ahead and you win something next season, because Chelsea are asking for like 35 million for Broja, someone who has never played and is always injured. So we need to find a way to be able to get money for these players. But Lokonga is about to leave. I don't think he was ever going to revive his Arsenal career, unfortunately. So all the best to him. You could tell the time he came on, I think 1.5 seasons ago, you could tell that he was not the guy. When you signed Lokonga, he was our guy for trying to get into the top 5 and top 4. Since we signed Lokonga and Tavares, we are now competing with Man City. That's a different level. So right away, we didn't like this. Like we're looking at Tavares and Lokonga and you're like, can Lokonga help us get to 94 points against Man City? Probably not, and it would be too much pressure on him anyway. So I think it's the right time for him to move. I think you're going to see a lot of incomings and outgoings this month. So all the best to Lokonga. I did say when you signed him and Tavares, at least we're signing young players. We can always move them on after a couple of years. That is what the likes of Chelsea do. So all the best to him. So another player that we're linked to is a goalkeeper. We've already signed Raya for 27 million. And we are also being linked to another goalkeeper from Espanyol. This time he has a release clause of 21 million. Surely not. Surely you're not going to spend 50 million on goalkeepers in a couple of weeks. Arsenal are ready to jump, unless we can play both of them at the same time in the goalpost, then maybe. Arsenal are ready to jump in for Espanyol's one, I think it's Juan Garcia. Espanyol will not accept anything less than his 21 million release clause. Inaki kind of knows him very well from time in Catalonia. So Inaki is our goalkeeper coach, the guy who brought Raya from Brentford to Arsenal, and he was at Brentford before, so he knows the goalkeeper very well. But he has a release clause of 21 million, which is very expensive. I don't know. I don't think we should be spending 21 million on a goalkeeper. Now, Ramsdale is still at Arsenal, and I've not heard too many teams saying they want him. So is that a problem? I kind of think so. For me, I was okay with also Ramsdale staying, but I know it's going to bring a lot of drama again. I want to avoid that drama of Ramsdale should play this and that. Just get a backup goalkeeper is going to be the second choice. We already know Ramsdale is not going to be anywhere near first choice, but at the moment, there's no teams that have said they want him, which is crazy. I thought we were going to get like 25 million, 26 million easily for Ramsdale. But the teams that would want him, they're not going to pay that money. But as of now, we are still being linked to goalkeepers who are going to come and be second choice. And that is Juan Garcia for now from Espanyol. This was from the other day as well. If Aaron Ramsdale is to leave Arsenal, then one man who features high on the contingent plan is Espanyol's Juan Garcia. The player is reported to have a 25 million euro release clause and is a likely target should the club need to recruit competition for David Raya. So they're not even really talking about backup. They're talking about competition for David Raya. So Juan Garcia probably could be that player. This is according to The Athletic. Again, a very, very dependable source. But let's see what happens with that. But Lokonga is definitely leaving. We are linked to this goalkeeper from Espanyol, but they wanted 21. They want us to pay 21 million release clause, which is very expensive. Now, if you've already signed players like this and players like I'd even throw in Calafiori in that, although I'm happy with Calafiori potentially signing for Arsenal. If you already had a striker from last season, if you already had, Osimhen already playing for Arsenal, and then we only needed a winger and a goalkeeper, then you can go and pay for players like Juan Garcia. Then you can go and start bidding for players like Olise. But for me, you need to get a striker first in the midfield as well, and then you can start talking about the other positions because listen, unless you're getting someone like a Prime Mane or Prime Salah who are going to score 40 goals in a season for you, I think we need to. The only positions I feel like we can improve on at the midfield, the striker position, and maybe left back. There's not too many others. Odegaard is a starter for me. Rice is a starter for me. Saka is a starter for me. Ben White is a starter for me. So I don't want those players to be replaced. I just want backups and a bit of competition here and there. But that's the latest. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. I love Calafiori. That will make Arsenal defense will be super good if Arsenal sign him. That's for sure. Abubakar. Ismaila says the CS team have started doing business. Arsenal is every day very close. Again, I don't agree with that. Which are the serious teams that you're talking about? Because Man City have not signed anyone. Maybe a youngster from Brazil or Argentina or someone. Liverpool have not signed anyone. So which ones are you talking about? If you're talking about Chelsea, I have one question for you, because if you're comparing Arsenal with Chelsea right now, those players that you always say, oh my goodness, Chelsea have signed players before Arsenal, how many have worked out for them? The last 3 years, not many of them. And anyway, the last 2 seasons, Arsenal has been the team that usually gets deals done quickly, because I remember Liverpool and Chelsea are fighting for Caicedo and Lavia with 1 week remaining in the transfer window. We had already signed Rice 2 months before that. So the thing about Arsenal being every day close and stuff, those are just rumors. And for us, we feel that way because we are focusing on the Arsenal news. But I can tell you, watching Chelsea news and watching Liverpool news and watching United news is the same for them. United have been told the elite has been very close for 2 weeks. Chelsea have been told this particular player has been close for 2 weeks. Tottenham have been told this particular player has been close for 3 weeks. It's every team. Transfers don't usually happen after 1 day and then it's done. It's like that. But I prefer. Do you prefer Arsenal signing a player 1 day into the transfer window and then it becomes a flop, or do you prefer Arsenal doing negotiations for 1 month and then they sign a player like Rice who's going to help you for 10 years straight? I prefer taking the time and then getting an actual player. Chelsea have signed players like Dewsbury Hall. Unless that is the player that you want for 20 million, 30 million, then we can do it. But I do understand why you're a bit mad, Ismail. I know people want signings very quickly. I also want signings very quickly. That would be great. Arsenal must sign a player that is very creative, says Joseph. We've been linked to a few players, the likes of Eze, players like that. And we were told yesterday that you're going, because we did a video called earlier today, the podcast, and we were talking about the German player that you've been linked to. I don't know if I have it here, but yeah, we've been linked to. Let's get through this. So Arsenal, this is according to Team News and Ticks, very it's a very good source when it comes to Arsenal news that has not come out. I spoke to my main source who told me that there's truth to it, but no deal has been done. So he was basically talking about Arsenal signing a player from a German international after the Euros. So if we do sign a German international after the Euros, who could that German player be? We've been linked to Kimmich. Kimmich is the one that we've been really linked to. That would be a great signing for us. But the list that I gave out on the podcast, the 3 players I think it could be Schlotterbeck, the defender from Dortmund. It could be Mittelstadt, the defender from Stuttgart. And it could be Andrich, the midfielder from Bayer Leverkusen. Cozy gave his options as Gnabry, Schlotterbeck, and Brandt. It could be any of that. There's been talk that Sane could leave there. Would you guys want Sane at Arsenal? There's been talk about Musiala. I don't think Musiala is going to leave Bayern Munich, though you're going to have to pay like 200 million for him. So we've been linked to a few creative players. But for me, first, I want a midfield and a strike. I feel we don't have problems with creating chances these days. 3 years ago, when we had Aubameyang and Lacazette, we are struggling to create chances for players like Aubameyang a lot of times. But right now, I don't think we have problems creating chances. Odegaard creates a lot of chances, created 100 plus last season in the league. Saka creates chances. Trossard creates chances. These days, even Ben White, his crosses are very good. He creates chances from corner kicks. We create numerous chances from Declan Rice and all those guys. I think you're okay in terms of creating chances. We just need to finish them now and also be very more solid in midfield. Morgan says, great work, bro. Glenn for I say our back four of Ben, Saliba, Tim, and Calafiori and Big Gabriel to Saudi. No, God, no. I don't want Gabriel to go anywhere. Calafiori will be our left back. I think Timber is the one that is going to be on the bench if that happens, if Calafiori joins Arsenal. Or I'd not be surprised if Ben White actually ends up on the bench and Timber is the one starting. It really depends on the kind of formation and kind of games. Now, as we've always said on the podcast, with Man City, they have Ake, Akanji, Gvardiol, Stones, Diaz, Lewis, Walker. They have a lot of defenders, and none of them is unhappy because today Gvardiol plays, tomorrow Ake plays, the next day Diaz plays, Champions League Stone starts at right back. The next week, this guy is starting. The next week, it's Diaz with Stones. The next week, it's Akanji and Ake. Everyone is happy. We don't have to rotate defenders, but if we do that, like after 2-3 games, like we have a Premier League game and then we start with Gabriel, Calafiori, Saliba, and Ben White, and then the Champions League game in midweek, Timber is starting and Tomias is starting, and then the weekend Timber is starting, and then Ben White is coming on at halftime. Like you manage to keep everyone happy and you rotate the team, then you can keep all of them. But Gabriel to Saudi, oh hell no, please no. Gabriel is probably the same level as Saliba last year. If you lose Gabriel from that team, no, man. No, and actually, Gabriel is one of the players that have now stayed at Arsenal the most alongside Martinelli, because most of the players now have been signed in 2021, 2022, and all that. Gabriel has been here since, 2020. So he's one of the longest serving Arsenal players at the moment. So he already has the experience and he's really improved the game. I remember Gabriel, there's a time he was picking up red cards, yellow cards. He's making so many mistakes. These days, when you look at Gabriel, how many yellow cards does he even pick up? Maybe 1 per 10 games. Rarely pick up yellow cards. Very disciplined these days. He can now speak in English, like a lot of improvements. Lawrence says Arsenal needs a real goal poacher that averages 20-30 goals per season. Let's hope that happens. We're still linked to the two players that the two victors. One of them could help us to victory, hopefully. Ben White will definitely hit the bench, says Lawrence. I have a feeling that could be the case. Hopefully not, though, because Ben White has done a lot for this team. Rotation. I like to call it rotation, not replacement. Charles says backup goalkeeper must be cheap, looking at the fact that there's no playing time for him. Raya has the jersey so far for keeps. Ramsdale would be making a mistake to leave Arsenal because you're the current challenger to Man City for the league. Depends. The one thing I can say is going for him is he's still going to be picked for the England squad, even if he's on the bench. But if he wants to start for England, he has to get somewhere where he's going to play. And all this talk about, when Ramsdale makes a mistake, people talk about Raya. When Raya makes a mistake, people talk about Ramsdale. I don't want all of that. So I just prefer second choice goalkeeper. Then that would be great. Timothy says, get Calafiori and Osimhen, then we'll all be champions this coming season. Those would be two very good signings. Osimhen, Gyökeres, at this particular moment, 55% Gyökeres, 45% Osimhen. But to be honest, any of those two players, I'm still going to be celebrating. If you get a proper striker, I'll be celebrating. Good update, says Davey. Thank you. Do you see Timber as a 6, says Morgan? Now, I'll do a video of how I think Arsenal will end up next season. I think when we have the ball, which is most of the time, I think you're going to see a back three with Ben White, Gabriel, and Saliba, and then you're going to see Timber and someone else in midfield, particularly maybe most of the time, maybe Rice and Timber in midfield. And if you have that as a back five, 2 midfielders and 3 defenders, that allows you to have 5 forward players, and that will allow you to have Havertz and a striker on the pitch at the same time as a front 2, and then 2 wingers and then 1 player behind those strikers. That formation could be the one that you see most of the time. So yes, Timber could be at 6, not like starting the game as a 6, but majority of particular games, he could end up as a 6 in that game. So I think we're going to see that. So Calafiori can probably do the same. And I think if Zinchenko stays, you could also see him do the same. The thing I wanted to Arsenal is unpredictable. And that's what is always so hard to say. Why? Basically, we're not predictable. Unpredictability, that's the word. I want us to be very unpredictable for other teams too when we play them. They don't know whether you're going to play Calafiori at left back or We are going to have Calafiori at centre back, or it's going to be Ben White in midfield, or it's going to be Kivio inverting, or it's going to be Kivio overlapping. I want us to completely confuse teams. Last season, we didn't win the league, but we were very good. Like, teams were having one shot against us. We had games like West Ham where we were creating like 28 chances or something, 28 shots. If we can do that with the striker and the midfield, and we were doing that without Timber, we were doing that without Partey, we were doing that without Zinchenko, we were doing that without Tomiyasu. Now imagine all of those players being there, and then you add 2 or 3 players. I do know players are going to leave. At least 4 players are going to leave, but if you keep the core of the team, you have to keep the spine of the team, obviously. If the spine of the team is there, that is absolutely fine. And the spine of the team is Saliba and Gabriel and Rice and Odegaard, and yeah, probably that. And then you can throw in Saka there. I'm just talking about the spine of the team. Obviously, there's other players, but you can rotate them. Hopefully, Saka next season gets rotated a bit so that he doesn't have to play 50 games in the season. Thank you, Chief Inspector. Kiprotich says Calafiori, Gabriel, Saliba, and White will be the best defense in the world. It would be. Now, just imagine that, and then you look at the bench, you have Tomiyasu, Timber. This is definitely better than years ago. There's a time our defense, man. I wish we were going to school right now. Because back in the day when you're going to, primary school and stuff, you used to go to school and you're like, United are telling you about how they've signed, they have Ferdinand, Vidic, and they have Evra. And you look at Chelsea, they have Terry, they have Carvalho, they have Ferreira, and they've signed Ivanovic. And then you look at Arsenal, you're like, yeah, we've just signed Sylvester from Man United. He's going to come and play with Scolacci. Those were terrible days, man. I even used to pretend to be sick so I wouldn't go to school because we've just signed Sylvester. Those were dark days. We had like 5, 6 terrible defenders. And when we had Vermaelen and Koscielny and Matsaka, who were good most of the time, you look at the fullbacks, you had Santos. Bellerin was good for like 2 years, but you look at the left back, you're not sure. Bellerin became, after the injury, Bellerin wasn't so good, and then you're struggling. We were signing players like Lichtstein. Lichtstein was like 60 years of age when you were signing him from Juventus. Now, as you said, Kiprotich, Calafiori, Gabriel, Saliba, White, Timber, Tomiyasu. That would be crazy, man. Dan, thank you for always being here as always. It's not the most important signing, but still a quality signing. I agree. We got lucky last season that Gabi and Saliba played near enough every minute last season. We're very lucky that those players didn't get injured. Not even just injured, even suspensions. Like Gabriel and Saliba were never suspended even for one game. No 5 yellow cards, no 10 yellow cards, no red card. Like, we were so lucky that our players are disciplined and all that, and they can stay fit. But yes, rotation is very important because next season there's more Champions League games and hopefully more Carabao Cup games and FA Cup games. I don't want us to go out of those competitions early. I want us to, be there more, at least win at least one of those cups plus the Premier League. Hopefully, we were solid in the middle and at the back, but was very predictable. We need more options, says Lawrence. Yeah, everyone just knew who you're going to start with. Sometimes it can help. Sometimes just knowing who you're going to play is going to help sometimes, but sometimes being unpredictable is also great. Lahai says Gyökeres is more clinical than Osimhen. Arsenal should sign Gyökeres. In terms of what you've seen for a lot of years, Osimhen has obviously done it for a longer time. Yes, Gyökeres has done it at Coventry and all. Actually, Gyökeres has scored goals for like 4 or 5 years in a row. Yeah. But Osimhen has done the same, and Osimhen has led his team to a league title and all that. I think both of them will score goals. In terms of who will fit Arsenal most, I'd still go for Gyökeres because he can still a team play in terms of getting assists and creating chances and all that. I just want someone who can score goals. You already have players who can create chances. Arsenal signing Calafiori, Musiala, Neto, and number 6 if Partey leaves, says Dauda. That's such a dream list. I would love that. Like, if Musiala joined Arsenal, Musiala is already 100 million, and now with his performances at the Euros, he's going to be like 200 million. So he's definitely going to stay there. He's not going to leave Bayern Munich, and he's going to be their player for like 5 years. I think they're going to build around him. Mark says, I can't see Timber on the bench. Ben or Gabriel will be benched because of Timber. Maybe, because Gabriel started last season on the bench, so it could happen again. But I think I've seen enough of Gabriel now not to bench him again. Gabriel helps us so many times, not just defensively, even attacking wise. When you have Gabriel there, I almost always expect a shot on target from a corner or a free kick when Gabriel is there, always. Dan says, do you think Arteta will go to a back three? I think it's going to be a mixture. I think when you have the ball, you're going to see a back three most of the games against at least 15 of the teams. Maybe not a Man City or Liverpool or Real Madrid in the Champions League, but against like Brighton or Crystal Palace or Leicester or Ipswich and all those guys, yeah, you're going to see a back three because you're going to dominate position a lot and you want to basically suffocate the team in midfield. When you have Rice there and Timber and maybe let's say Partey, the team is not going to get the ball. And if they get the ball, there's Gabriel, Ben White, and Saliba at the back. I'm starting to feel sorry for the team. So I put a poll on YouTube in the chat saying thoughts on Calafiori potentially signing for Arsenal. You can also answer if you're watching on Facebook and X. There's 43 of you watching on X and 106 of you watching on Facebook. You can just comment and say, so excited by the signing? Are you excited by this signing? 68% so far saying yes. 19% are saying just happy we are signing someone. 8% are saying they're not sure so far, and 6% are saying, yeah, wrong position. We need to sign a striker or someone else. I'm not happy with Arsenal transfer business so far. They're too slow. Say Steve. I don't really agree with that, Steve. The transfer window has been going on for 2 weeks. There's still 8 weeks to go. So there's still a lot of time to go. I think people are following Chelsea too much. The players that Chelsea have signed are 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds. If I think you can say that, Steve, if by 21st of July we're sitting here and you've not signed anyone yet, then I'll agree with your comment. I prefer the guy from Sporting because I look at his age and he seems like a player that can accommodate more inputs in his game. Yeah, right. But there's also a kind of a myth going around that Gyökeres' age. You know, Osimhen is younger than Gyökeres, by the way. That's I don't know if people know that. Gyökeres is actually older than, but almost the same, I think, by a couple of months though. Glenn, how are you, man? We need competition for Gabriel and Saliba, not to get complacent. Yeah, it would be great. I think we already have it to players like Timber, but adding players to the team is absolutely fine. Nice seeing you, Gunnar Matters. Mindful says Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White, Calafiori, Tomiyasu, Timber, Kivio, Zinchenko. Yeah, like when I compare that to 10 years ago, I just feel like crying, man. Gyökeres is going to score goals for us if we got him. Says Joseph. Lloyd says a great player, but he's the wrong option to open our window. I hear you, Lloyd. I hear you. You'd want like a striker first and then, a wing and then you get a defender. But I think Arteta really loves getting clean sheets and having players dominate from the goalkeeper to the midfield and all that. And we dominate games a lot. I didn't want a defender, but if an opportunity like a Calafiori or a Hart or Inacio or Branthwaite become available, no problem. Moses says I prefer Gyökeres. Valentine says get Calafiori, Mikel Marine, and one defensive midfield player. That would be great. I still want a striker, though, from that list. Valentine. Calafiori would be great. Merino would be great in midfield. I don't know if Sociedad are going to sell him, though. And one defensive midfielder. I definitely want a defensive midfield. I don't know who, but let's see who it's going to be. Now, Anthony says Arsenal are too slow in the transfer market. That's not true, though, Anthony, is it, though? Over the years, yes, but the last 2 years, that is not true. We signed Havertz before preseason. We signed Rice before preseason. We signed Jesus before preseason. We signed Zinchenko like in our first preseason game. We signed Vieira before preseason. Like most of our deals are done before preseason these days. Actually, the last 2 years, by July, we're already bored in terms of transfers. We don't even talk about transfers anymore because we've already finished. But last season, Raya popped up in August. I don't think we're too slow. 2 years ago, yes, but right now I don't think we're too slow. I'll prove you wrong. By the end of July, Arsenal will have 3 signings, and then you'll be looking at the other teams. They'll not have signings. So it doesn't really matter whether we do it in the first week or the third, or sign 3 players in the third week. As long as we have our players ready by the preseason, I'm absolutely fine. Gyökeres is better, and add Diomande. Now, Mindful says, hello, Glenn, who's the mystery German player? So it hasn't been confirmed yet. So in case you didn't see the podcast from the morning, they did confirm yesterday, Team News and Tips, that Arsenal are probably going to sign a German international after the Euros. And Arsenal are currently in talks, and they don't want to make it public because they want to keep it a secret. They want to avoid teams like Chelsea getting those players that we are linked to. So my list, I say it could be Andrich from Bayer Leverkusen, the defensive midfielder for Germany, because they'll be linked to defensive midfielders. It could be that. Maybe they want to keep it secret, really don't want to, because Kimmich is already out there. It could be Kimmich, but Kimmich is not a secret. Everyone knows Kimmich is a very good player and everyone knows about him. But it could be Andrich. It could be the current player who's playing at left back for Germany. Mittelstadt is the defender for Stuttgart. And it also could be Schlotterbeck, the defender from from Dortmund. But Kosi said that he thinks it could be Gnabry. We've been linked with Gnabry before. It could happen because we've also been linked to wingers like Nico Williams and Olise and all those guys. He said it could also be Brandt from Dortmund, and then he also agreed on Schlotterbeck. So it could be any of those. It's very hard to predict. Just imagine it's Neuer, like the way we signed goalkeepers. Boom, Neuer's joined Arsenal. Neuer joining Arsenal will be, I don't know how that one will be like accepted by the fan base because it's already too old and all that, but don't be surprised if that happens. But I'm sure it's one of those Dortmund or Leverkusen or Bayern players, those three teams, I'd say. Mindful says Fabrizio also tweeted Arsenal are ready to increase their offer for Chido Obi Martin. Is there any chance to play him as a replacement for Nketiah? No, it's too early, I'd say. 16 years of age. Yes, there's players like Hendrick and those guys playing, but they're not really being dependent on their team. I'd give Chido Obi a couple of years to progress fast. Let him go to the under 18, under 21 first for one season, and then there's no problem with bringing him for 1 or 2 games, put him on the bench for 2 Carabao Cup games. He comes on for 10 minutes for one game, no problem. But in terms of putting him on the bench every time as a Nketiah replacement, no, it's too early. I wouldn't want to put that pressure to him, though. Guys, be a bit patient. A lot of people are on holiday at the end of the year, says Dan. I agree, and Copa America as well. Deals are going to happen. Like these days, I'm not worried at all about deals. 3 years ago, I've been worried. These days, I know we move different as a team. Valentine says Sel Nketiah, Nelson, Kivio, keep Smith Rowe. I wish Kivio could stay, but from your list, I wouldn't mind it because I also want Smith Rowe to stay. Lloyd says, get me that Sane and move Saka to the midfield with Rice, Odegaard, and Rice and Odegaard. Oof. Now the thing is, if with that formation, it means Rice plays the number 6, but I want Rice to play as a number 8, so I want a number 6. Imagine the Saka Martinelli on the left, Sane, Odegaard on the right, with Rice just destroying and intercepting ball like a dream. Now, I prefer Rice as a number 8, not because of the reasons why people prefer him as a number 8, because most people say Rice is number 6 is terrible, he cannot progress the ball. That is a lie. Don't listen to the media and those guys. That is a definite lie. But Rice is a number 8. He basically helps us with those tackles and interceptions closer to the opposition goal. As a number 6 is in our half. But when he does it from the number 8 position, when he wins the ball like on that other side of the pitch, you're quicker on the attack. You're very quick on the attack because it's basically you're winning it close to the goal and you're closer to the goal and it's easier to create a chance to score a goal. In the number 6, if you have Rice and someone else, then basically you have 2 interceptors, 2 tacklers in midfield and all that. So for me, I prefer Rice as a number 8. And on top of that, you've seen Rice can score goals. You've seen he can create chances. He's very good at set pieces. So I'd leave him as a number 8. No problem with playing Rice as a number 6 some games and maybe trying what you said, Lloyd. Maybe Saka as a number 10 or 1 or 2 games. But no, I still prefer Saka on the right side, on the wings, in terms of taking on defenders and all that. Appreciate it, Lloyd. We don't need Andrich from Leverkusen. He's not that good. Instead, we bring Bruno Guimaraes. I disagree. I think Andrich is great. Depending if you've just if you're talking about the 3-4 German games they've played, maybe it's not been great for all of them, but for Leverkusen, he's probably one of their best players last season. And him and Xhaka in that midfield is really good. Another team we have a good relationship with because we gave them Xhaka is Leverkusen. So I'd not be surprised if the player is Andrich or someone like that. So instead, we bring Bruno Guimaraes. Again, though, Newcastle, West Ham, they're not going to sell these players. Bruno Guimaraes would cost you more than 100 million. Bruno Guimaraes would be an exceptional signing for sure, but it's just going to take too much time to negotiate with Newcastle. Great show as always, by the way. Enjoy the African perspective on Arsenal. Have you tried playback for live interaction with us, your fan, says Lloyd? I've not tried playback. I only see all these channels advertising it, but I could try it. I'm going to look into it. I can't lie to you. I've not looked into it, but I am going to look into it. Big up. Thank you. Mindful. Last comment. Bar says, I suggest Arsenal should go in for a strong, energetic, and strong central midfielder. That's a priority for anything that wants to win the league. That is true. Your midfield has to be very good, pretty much. So if in case you haven't checked out the podcast we did because the earlier, make sure to check that one. If there's any more updates, I'll do one more video today. So this particular time that we've done this live stream, every day. So we're going to be doing this live stream every single day, plus the podcast in the morning with Kozi. So make sure to be joining at this time, wherever time it is at your place, 7 p.m., 6 p.m., 5 p.m., 4 p.m. right now. This is the time you're going to be doing the live stream every day. As of now, thank you guys for watching and catch up with you on the next one.